Hi guys, Mandy here from Crew Radio, stopping by to tell you about our brand new show.
Good morning, buenos dias, hola, buongiorno. And I'm so excited too. This is Pablo and I would like to introduce you to James and Catherine. We can't really express with what how excited we are. First, be invited, first show. And second, that you guys are coming on board all the way from Australia.
Hello London, hello Europe. And we're checking in from Melbourne, Australia.
James, so what's the name of the show and why did you decide to call it that?
Well, I've got to remember it because it's a bit of a tongue twister. You can't do it after a few drinks. So it's Crew Slips and Holiday Tips.
What is the show about? What is the format? Because I know that you're going to have many panelists and I've seen like a little sneak peek. Tell us a bit more about that.
You know when you're on the back of the crew bus and you're going into a new city and you're hoping that the seniors will share with you all those wonderful little gems that they have about where you might go for great noodles or a massage or maybe even one of those little out of the way beaches where they're not, it's not overrun with tourists.
So that's our show. We've got cabin crew calling in from all around the world. Now, first of all, Mandy, you're the creator of Crew Radio. Can you tell us about how you started?
Well, I initially started thinking about it in 2019, long before the world changed. And I'm a big procrastinator, James. So it took me months and months and months to get it off the ground. And then 2020 happened.
So did that kick you into high gear because you had the lockdown?
We were furloughed and I thought, well, now's the time to ramp up getting Crew Radio off the ground.
I understand there's like 42 years flying between you, so you no longer fly. Is this like a full-time job for you now?
I wish. No. Unfortunately, no. It feels like a full-time. I spend, because this radio is my hobby. So it's the type of thing that you can spend hours and hours and hours. You don't feel like you're working. So maybe one day it will be full-time and I'll do nothing apart from radio. Because I'm a bit of a geek. I love my planes and things and that. Yeah. So, and traveling and all of this. So it's a dream come true.
I loved how you were saying before that you were like a gypsy and you can pack up because you work from home and your little studio goes with you.
Yes, I've got my little bag.
That must be handy.
And it all goes. I've got my traveling studio and my permanent studio. So
best of both worlds.
I love my my mixing table. So I've got the one at home that is here in London, and then the one I take with me with my mic and my mixing table.
And Mandy, just to give people an idea why they should go to the Crew Radio website, just the broad range of programs you've got.
Crew are not one-dimensional, are they, James? I mean, crew, like all sorts of things, we're all very different people as well as being flyers. So, when it comes to our programs, we've got like rock and roll programs with a vintage DJ. She's very young, by the way, as well. We've got like soul programs. We've got wellness and health and mental health. And so it's a broad spectrum, and most radio stations don't have that, because if you're listening to a radio station, it's got soul or it's got pop or whatever. That's all you hear.
When I listen from here in Australia, it feels like family, and we connect because we've got the same sort of shared crew, and that comes across. And especially, I think it'd be fantastic. I haven't been flying for a while, but I think it'd be amazing to be in a slip port or a hotel where you're listening to people from home playing your sort of music, because being in a hotel can be very isolating, can't it?
Yeah, that's exactly why I started it out. I was doing radio like Pablo. I've done radio for a very long time, not quite as long as him, but quite a long time. And my former radio station, I was finding that crew were listening in and they were saying, oh, I'm in Mexico or I'm in Hong Kong. I'm feeling a bit down. It's the middle of the night. It's hours before the restaurants open up. I'm listening to your show and you're really, really helping me. I feel so much better just listening to your show. And I got that sort of light bulb moment. I was like, why isn't there a crew radio station? Where we can connect with home, we can hear voices that belong to home, and we can play music that and talk that crew like. And that's why I got the idea. So
fabulous idea. That really resonated with me, that you're not alone wherever you are. I just thought, wow, it must have been amazing. I heard that it came to you at like 30,000 feet and you were riding it on the back of a a napkin or something.
A menu, I think, from club class. I was just like, So I started scribbling on the back
Yeah.
page.
How do you choose your panelists, your guests?
It's amazing. We've put the feelers out, and so many people have come back to us saying, we want to be on the show. We want to talk about Morocco. We want to talk about Africa. We want to talk about Asia. And hopefully people listening to this, if you're an expert on a particular place in the world, might be where you live, where you travel, get in contact because we want you on our show. Well, I feel very privileged that you are prepared to take us on, and we feel a sense of obligation to make sure we fuck it up.
Online, around the world, this is Crew Radio.
Good morning. This is your wake-up call.
Wow, James, I don't know about you, but I feel like the parents have gone out for the night and we're like a couple of kids left home alone.
Using that analogy, Catherine, what could possibly go wrong? Leaving the keys with a bunch of Aussies.
Oh my God.
I just hope we don't burn the place down for them because they've been so welcoming. So I just wanted to explain about the sound quality you're about to hear in our very first program. We've had some technical challenges simply because no one's done a show like this before, because we're getting cabin crew calling in from all around the world. And we've got people on, there's someone on a speedboat, we've got stuff from Italy, there's someone on an aircraft, we've got someone on a cruise ship off the coast of Mexico. Consequently, the sound may not be quite optimum, what you're used to hearing with the old pros like Mandy and Pablo on Crew Radio. So bear with us. I can assure you what we lack in quality, we absolutely make up for in passion, don't we, Catherine?
We do. So what do you reckon, James? Are we ready?
I've got no idea, Catherine. I actually don't think we are, but we've just got to do it, don't we?
Let's go.
Keep us on your radar. This is Crew Radio.
Okay, we're back.
And Catherine, we've got some mates of ours who fly for a big Australian airline. And we've got Cindy. Cindy, can you hear us?
Certainly can, James. Hello, everyone.
And you're calling in from Melbourne, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And then we've got George in. It looks like you're in a back galley, which you are. We'll come to that shortly. Where are you calling in from? Can you hear us?
Yes, so I'm calling in from Adelaide, City of Churches.
And we won't hold that against you at all. Now, the reason, I'll get to you shortly, Cindy, but the reason I've invited you on, George, is I'm a huge fan. George does these incredible, how would you describe them? Little music videos or clips?
Skits.
Skits?
Yeah, little skits, I guess. Originally, I wanted to do like... what's the word, like inspirational, motivational sort of videos.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't be serious.
You're like a celebrity amongst crew for us. And I think what's great about this program being international, we'll be able to share what you do with people up in the UK and across Europe and Asia and stuff. Now let's bring back Cindy.
Hello.
So Cindy, as you know, this program is about bringing a crew from all over the world together to talk about our favourite destinations and things. So when you think about our network and you're domestic with this Australian carrier, where's your favourite place to slip?
James, I'm going to keep it real here. I've been flying for nearly 30 years. I'll be lucky to get a slip.
Okay, well that's our we haven't got a program then, have we? So Cindy, what say we come back to you shortly? Have a think about this. Now, George, what about you? You're up next. We'll come back to Cindy when she can. So, George, what about you in terms of the network? You're domestic as well, is that correct?
My favourite's always been Brisbane. Yeah, I like it because of the weather, the people.
And it's subtropical, so you've got the palm trees and the weather's much nicer and all that sort of stuff. Now, Cindy, what about you? What about a holiday spot? If you're not, if there's nowhere in the network that you like or you can actually get to, let's switch to a holiday destination. Where would you like to holiday?
I would have to say my recent holiday, which was last year, was cruising in Tahiti. That was amazing. It was sun, sand, sailing, sex on the beach, bracket. That was the cocktail I drank. Okay.
That's not quite the radio show I had in mind. Anyway.
It was the cocktail.
You're going to get us banned on our first episode, Cindy.
I'll message you later, Cindy.
So, Cindy, about Tahiti and things, what's one thing that you did there that just blew your mind? That you can tell people. We're not going to
Well, basically everything blew my mind, but it was the amazing cruise that we did, and visiting all these beautiful islands, the weather, the sand. Seriously, the sand is white, the water is blue.
Well, that's all over the world, Cindy.
Yeah, no, but like, look at my backdrop.
Okay,
like, that's
cool.
exactly the way it looked. One of our fabulous days was one of the private islands we went to, which was brilliant. Everything was taken care of. We have drunken our body weight in alcohol everywhere where we went, and that would have to be one of the favourite things I did in Bora Bora, and that was visit Bloody Mary's, which was ideal.
That sounds like a crew hotel, like a favourite bar in every city in the world.
Yes.
Can I ask you, Cindy, do you have to go as a couple though, or did you find, were there singles on board your cruise?
Oh, lots of singles. Yeah, definitely so. Yes, it's certainly not just a couple. I mean, of course, it's lovely if you've got your partner there, but you can certainly enjoy it just as much as a single, because everyone's so social, Catherine. You know, you go down for dinner, you go down for breakfast, there's always a hello, there's always a chum to chat to, there's always the pool.
So can you sort of like book in, if you're a single, say, you can sort of book in for dinner and they'll put you on a table with all other singles, or do they just mix it all up? Or
they mix it all up.
Whatever you want to do.
The table at the wedding where you've got all the kids and the singles. No, they put you with everybody.
The kids' table.
Obviously, that's what happened to you, Catherine. Scarred.
Okay, so George, back to you. What would you do in Brisbane? You said Brisbane's a place you love to fly to. What's a little gem that you have for getting a great meal in Brisbane, or a massage, or...
Okay, well, because I'm Asian, I can give myself a massage.
That's something else we can't put in the show too. Anyway, that's hilarious.
My favourite place to go, it's actually very famous. It's all around the world. It's called McDonald's. It's a really nice hamburger there. And certain meals you get a nice choice. But if I don't get a McDonald's, there's this place called, I actually wrote it down because I don't know how to say it, Pohana. It's a Thai place.
Yeah.
And yeah, they do really good duck curries, and really, like, it's really good food, but a hearty size.
Yeah.
So that's probably where
Crew discount or not?
No, not yet.
But still, if it's
Most
good
of the time
food, we don't
speak
mind.
English, but
We don't mind.
they just give you.
you could go anywhere in the world, and say would you actually go international, or are you going to stay domestic?
Well, so yeah, sometimes I go overseas to Tasmania, New Zealand, which is nice. Hamilton Island, I went there last Thursday.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But no.
How long were you there? How many nights were you there, George?
Well, I was there for about 55 minutes, and then I boarded the plane. And then...
Okay, well, thank you, guys. This first episode, really just a zip around the world to introduce you to some of these amazing characters we work with, and they'll all be popping back in in different episodes. And so next month we may focus on Brisbane. It could be Tahiti, it could be Asia, it could be the UK, it could be anywhere in the world. So thank you both very much for joining us. Sorry, what was that?
Rosebud.
Rosebud. Well, again, that's a local. We think that's funny, but people in the UK, Rosebud. Is that another naughty reference? Anyway, thank you both for joining us.
By crew, for crew. This is Crew Radio, broadcasting around the world 24/7.
So, James, I know we've got a really special guest today. Would you like to share with
Catherine,
everybody who that is? I'm
very, very excited. It's actually a huge celebrity up in the UK. And just to tell a little backstory, I boarded a ship. It was Seabourn. It's one of the best ships in the world. It was a luxury assignment I was hosting. And as is my wont, I went straight to the buffet and I was piling up my plate. And I turned around and there was this very glamorous, very exotic woman. And it was Romney. So Romney is joining us. Hello, Romney. Can you hear us?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Apparently it's Romney.
Romney. I'm saying Romney. It's Romney.
I'll take anything.
But anyway, just to get back to the little story, I was on this amazing ship and we hit it off. And it's like when you get on a crew and there's someone you instantly hit it off with and you're best mates for the rest of the crew. And that's what happened in this instance. And it turned out that Romney was a featured act on Seabourn. Now, obviously, Seabourn, they're very expensive cruises, like can be up to $10,000-15,000 per person to be on board Seabourn. So obviously, if you're paying that sort of money, you don't want to go to the entertainment and go, "This is crap. I want my money back." What's your tagline, Roman? It's the Bette Midler of magic. Is that correct?
Well, it's the Romany Diva of Magic is my character name, and then someone, I think it was Time Out, said a cross between Mary Poppins and Bette Midler
with feathers.
Imagine that.
One night, Romany hosted this VIP table, as you do as a guest performer, and maybe if you can tell the story as you remember it.
That's right. Well, were we in Oman or we were somewhere like that?
In the Middle East. It was very exotic, and we'd all dressed up.
So there I am hosting a table, and it's always a bit nerve-wracking hosting a table at Seabourn anyway, because everyone's, they're very accomplished and it's usually fun. But I get this message, this card, saying one of your guests is the Sultan of Oman. Now, that wouldn't be unusual on Seabourn to have the Sultan of Oman, because we have only the best VIPs. But I am going, oh my God. I mean, because I'm wearing probably a low-cut the evening dress, and my arms are going, and God knows what I'm doing wrong. And and along comes this chap, all swathed in Arabic clothes, and of course it's
and
James.
The headress.
And the headress. And I'm so relieved. And so
that was me. And we were just in hysterics, weren't we?
Hilarious.
We were. That was one of the best evenings I think I had on Seabourn. The dinners.
I'm going to drop in photos of that here. You're so skilled as a speaker, as an author, as a magician. You've won awards for your magic.
And I hear you've been on, what is it?
Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah, Britain's Got Talent, and you've met Prince Charles. And how did you get into magic? How did you start?
Well, I was completely stage struck. I wanted to be a dancer or a ballerina, but my parents were very normal. I ended up at university, not doing anything. And then though I went to Italy and I saw some street performers, and I was like, oh, but even so, I still got a management job selling data systems for British Telecom on a very good salary. But then, thank God, I had a nervous breakdown because it's so stressful. And I was like, I didn't want to have a good job. I wanted to be on stage. And so in that space of having agoraphobia for 2 years, often it makes you consider your life. I was like, I want to be on the stage.
Getting back to all your amazing travels, you mentioned Fiji. I know with all these high-end cruise ships, you've seen a lot of the world. What are your standout ports or,
Well, first of all, I was watching your YouTube about your last one with all your pictures of Bora Bora. Yeah. And I just had to get it out because I never got to Bora Bora. I got to Tahiti.
Oh, well, right? They're similar.
They're not. No, Tahiti is horrible. Bora Bora is amazing.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes, yes. There's certain parts of Tahiti, but Bora Bora, there's nothing like Bora Bora.
No, and I will never forgive you for that because I went all the way there, and I should have taken another week and seen Bora Bora, but never mind. So my favourite ports were actually Europe, were Greece and Italy. Because it was so easy to get off the ships and wander around, like Naples, you could wander around and have a pizza, or Greece. So when I took my husband on a cruise, I researched first. So I looked at every port that I was going to go to and looked up TripAdvisor, what you can do, which was a really good idea. And so when I went to Greece, and I can't remember the town, but I'm sure if you look up the donkey lady on TripAdvisor in Greece. So I found this woman who was German. She'd married a Greek and then found she couldn't work there. So she found a donkey sanctuary. So she would pick you up off the port, this tiny village in Greece, and take you to her donkey sanctuary. Now, you didn't ride the donkeys, but you got to clean out their hooves, which when I told some guests on Seabourn, they weren't very impressed with that. And it was fascinating. And then she took you to a taverna where we had the best Greek lunch with meze and hummus and olives and the wine. And that was such a special day. And so it's such a good tip to just research on TripAdvisor the little towns where you're going to go, because otherwise you will be in the internet cafe bored.
I think TripAdvisor is such a great resource. A lot of people don't use that, but you can actually research into.
Or you can also listen to our show now, because we're going to be talking, and we have already spoken to crew all over the world with all these fascinating little tidbits.
Yeah, it must be fascinating being a performer on these ships, because it's very much on stage and off stage. And then there's a whole crew bar and there's a whole world
secret
that we
world,
as passengers don't know.
Well, James, but on I'm not allowed to go in the crew area.
Oh, aren't you as a performer? You have passenger privileges. I thought you got both, so you can't cross over into the dark side.
So it can be a little bit lonely because you either socialise with the guests, which if you've got someone like you on board, then it's fantastic.
What I was going to ask you, actually, how do you combat loneliness when you travel so many months of the year?
Well, I think having a task. So this sounds a bit weird, but so for example, I wrote my book, I recorded the audibles in my suite. I found when I had a job to do and I had a deadline, I was very happy. And when I didn't, I was lonely.
It is a work for you. Like, I mean, you only do how many shows per, say, a week's cruise?
On
One or two?
On Seabourn, you might do 2.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to be on when you're on there. But then for the rest of that time, if you're by yourself, it could be quite isolating because you're not a member of the crew, you're not a member of passengers.
So for anyone that's fascinated about Romany's life as a magician and her travels and life on board the cruise ships, how can we track you down?
Well, my website, and you can see me doing magic in action, is romanymagic.com. And you'll see a link to my book there. And the book is on, for Australians all around the world, your best bet is Book Depository. And it's Spun into Gold, The Secret Life of a Female Magician.
Crew Radio, around the world, around the clock. Radio with altitude.
So Cindy's just run off to the first class toilets.
As she's wont to do. So, George, that gives us a chance to delve into what you do. Now, for those of you watching us on Facebook, you'll see on a part of the screen, we're trying new technology. We're crossing to an aircraft live. I think it's a red-eye flight across Asia. And you can see a flight attendant. We're having trouble with the communication. May, she's eating cup noodles. For those of you listening, there's a passenger. Oh, what? She's putting eye shades on. What's she do? Oh, there's a passenger who's just come into the galley. Anyway, she can't hear us at the moment. So if you're at home and you can turn on Facebook, you can see what we're talking about. So the passenger's just left the cabin. She's got.
Has she given up?
What's she doing? Oh no, she's gone back to a cup noodle. So we'll have to come back to her later if we can get the sound working. So George, tell us about how you come up with these incredible characters.
It's just everyday life, mostly at work, things that annoy me, and I think, how can I pay out that person? I'll do it in video form. No, just joking.
So it's revenge.
No. Sometimes, I think, how can I do that?
So,
but to make it funny.
So there's revenge porn, and this is revenge drag.
And there's a bit of because when you're on the aircraft, you got to be serious. You're in work mode. So I think, well, how can I make that funny when we're off the aircraft? And just go from there.
Were you always the funny kid at school, or did this sort of develop as you got older?
Sort of. I was like class clown, but I mostly was the one that got in trouble for eating, for talking.
Cup noodles.
Now, for those who can't see what's happening on the screen, the supervisor's just walked into the galley and May's dropped her cup noodles and she's pretending she's about to do... what's she doing? She's doing something. It looks like she's pretending to do another service, and the supervisor's just
the
left.
second service.
The second service.
So, George, to me, within our airline in Australia, you're royalty. You're quite famous as you fly around, and I equate you to someone like a Randy Rainbow who does these incredible little skits in your bedroom. How did you start? Because to me, you come across as quite shy as an introvert.
Oh yeah, I actually am very shy. I could be a nun, but I don't like the celibacy. So be a priest. But I started because I wanted to do more inspirational sort of stuff, but I couldn't be serious, and I just naturally fell into the funny side of things.
Do you know my favourite one is that Hawaii 5-0 skit where you've got several different flight attendants going at once, and someone says there's a Bob out in the cabin, and then the music starts up and you're all sort of preening and ready to go out there.
Yes. So, George, was that revenge?
So it was sort of revenge because there was a really cute guy on board, and I told the crew, and it's like, don't look, but then they all look, and they
of course
all
they do.
walk past. And also,
yes.
You don't tell anyone where Bob's sitting on board, do you, ever?
And something I like to do, which, I can give a bit of a tip, I pretend to look for something in the overhead locker that the passenger is in. And then I say, oh, has anyone seen this water bottle? And it's a good way to check the person out. So there's a little tip for you.
And James, you were talking about, I think, the Chariots of Fire one where they're racing for the last crew meal. Is that the one you were meaning?
Yes, which is hilarious. I think we've all been there. We've got to get that meal before the techies get it.
And you don't tell them what's left over on the phone because
they'll be out.
Never.
Okay. Well, George, thank you so much. You're going to become a regular team member here on our show. And for everyone, I really urge you to go to our Facebook page, which you'll be able to find on Crew Radio, and have a look at George's amazing video stuff.
Online, around the world, this is Crew Radio.
Catherine, you know how I've been telling you that for years and years my mates have called me Julie the cruise director from the Love Boat? And I thought that was an endearing term of affection until I started Googling Julie. And I don't think they're being kind, because I think it's more in reference to the love of a good buffet, but we won't go there. But I'm thrilled because...
No, we're not going there.
I'm thrilled because of all that, because my dream job is to be a cruise director. I never actually got there. But joining us now is Tamarind. Now, Tamarind, can you hear us?
I can. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
So, Tamarind, you were or have been a cruise director, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I was cruise director for one of the major lines for over 5 years. Actually, on the topic of Julie, the cruise director, I actually ended up applying to be cruise director because I was obsessed with that show. And I was in a terrible job at the time. And the lady was just so mean. So I actually quit my job saying I'd got a job on a cruise ship as a cruise director, not knowing anything about it. And then about 5 years later, there I was, actually a cruise director.
So from what I understand, you started off as a fitness instructor, you were an entertainer, you were a cruise director and a mother, having had your first daughter on board. How did you manage to do all that?
Oh, it's actually, when I look back, I can't believe how absolutely special it's been. I started as fitness, as you said. In the spa, and I saw the cruise director up there. I was like, that's where I'm meant to be. So I joined the entertainment team and just kind of went from there.
So did you learn to sing to become a cruise director? Did you sort of make yourself into what you ideally dreamt of being, or did you already know how? Were you just already a singer and a dancer? And
yeah, I was lucky enough to be trained in that when I was much younger. My mum saw potential at the age of 5, which is when, one of those stage mums get her into competitions. And so I did my first talent show competition when I was 5 and won. And from that point on, it was just such a love of mine. So, it's something that I just kind of took with me on the journey as opposed to trained up later on.
So Tamarind, in terms of that role, that dream job of being a cruise director, I mean, we think of that, wouldn't that be fantastic? And there must be some incredible moments in that, but there must be some stress points as well, like being on an aircraft, the cabin crew. So what was the best part about being a cruise director on a ship?
Oh man, there's so many. That's a really tough question. I think just the ship life in general was absolutely phenomenal. You leave your family behind most of the time. I was lucky enough to take mine with me for the last 3 years, but most of the time you're leaving your family, all of your friends behind to kind of go into this, place that you have no idea what it's going to be like. And everyone there just becomes your family, and you bond so quickly and so strongly with those people that, you can't imagine life without them until your contract ends. You have to go through the whole, mourning process and, I'm going to miss you so much. And then a couple of months later, you're on a new ship and it's exactly the same.
And so is it very much like a school camp where you go away, are your best mates, you say, we're going to catch up, we're going to do this, and then you go home to your family and then you lose contact with a lot of them. Your best mates, I guess you'd stay in contact with. But it must be incredible getting another contract and getting on board and having some of your best mates on board, or when your family come on board on holidays.
Oh, absolutely. And, when you're in a little bit of a more senior role, as I was towards the end, I had my grandmother from South Africa come and sail with me, my mum, I already had my daughter on board and my husband living on board. So then my dad came for a few nights and everyone was there. And, you know, to introduce them to this world that I could only before tell them about was
that's incredible. Think you'd go back or?
You know, I have 3 kids now. Well, 4 if you include my husband. And, so I think the cabin might get a little bit small. That's initially the reason we left. But if maybe when they're older, I would definitely consider it. Maybe, you know, maybe not as cruise director.
Tamarind, what was your favourite destination sort of pre-baby? And did you find that changed once you had a family?
Oh, yes. I think pre-baby, you know, I was free and loving it, and it was all about the sea, the surf and the sand, and you know, just kind of like Barbados, for example. There's, I don't know if you guys have been there, but all the crew head to a place called Boatport. So it's a beautiful beach and it's got an enormous bar and great food, and literally every cruise ship crew member that's in port that day will head down to the boat dock or the boat yard. So, you know, that was before baby, and then after baby, it was more about searching for, you know, a park where you could go
I hear you.
they don't have those on the ships. You know, so it was a bit more family orientated, I guess.
So Tamarind, you must have some incredible stories. Some you may not be able to tell. So I think we need to, Catherine, I think we need to get Tamarind back for a whole episode on life on board the ships, because I understand that crew bar goes off with all that free-flowing alcohol, and you're away from family, you're away for 4 or 6 months. So obviously we're going to have to come back, but it must be such an incredible experience being backstage, because it's very much like that on a ship, isn't it? It's front of house and backstage, a bit like us with cabin crew. You're in the galley or you're in the cabin, and so you must have some incredible stories.
Absolutely, and I think that's always so fascinating, you know, for guests in particular. They're always wanting to know what goes on behind the scenes, but you know, I mean, it's just like any other workplace, except you live there too. So you know, it's like having your friends stay over
and that makes it so much more intense too, doesn't it? Because you're there for, you know, 4 or 6 months, and you're with the same managers, and there must be good managers and bad managers. And
I know. Tell me, do you watch that show Below Deck?
I started, and then I just started to get so annoyed with it. Because you're always reliving it. I mean, it's the same, you know, managers, as you said, you get good ones and bad ones, but thankfully most of the time they switch out halfway through a contract. So if you've got a bad one, you're only probably going to have them for a couple of months, and then you'll get another one. Great, a little bit better.
Okay.
But it's the same with the guests. You know, guests come on, and like you see on Below Deck, some guests are wonderful and some guests are just really challenging.
What about if someone was thinking about joining a cruise line and doing whatever, whether it's in the gym or a waiter or what you did? Any advice to them, just in a nutshell?
Just do it, really. I think go the Nike way and just do it. It's scary. It's lonely at times.
It's hard work. It's bloody hard work.
Yeah, and it is really hard work. You will work harder than you have in your entire life, but the rewards that you get from it are tenfold.
Fancy an adventure into the R&B old school? Well, I'm Tricky, and each and every week I'll be the pilot for that adventure, right here on Crew Radio. The destination, a groove thing. That is where we dive into the soul archives and jog a few musical memories along the way. So come join me, Tricky, inside a groove thing, each and every week right here on Crew Radio.
Online, around the world, this is Crew Radio.
Catherine, this is going to be quite a challenge technically. Now, can you hear me, Narelle?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so how many years did you fly for, Narelle?
I flew for 34 long years.
34 long years. And Narelle, where are you talking to us from? You're on a boat, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. I'm in the Noosa River.
So for those of you listening on Crew Radio up in the UK who can't see the images, how many Labradors have you got on the boat, Narelle?
Oh, only 7 today.
Only 7? Where's the rest of them?
They're at the back exhausted. We can't see them.
Of all the places you've seen, because you grew up in outback Australia, you've travelled all around Australia and the world. Where's your favourite place to holiday?
Absolutely Noosa. It's my favourite place in the world. There's nothing like it. Look at that beautiful blue water. It's absolutely magnificent.
Explain Noosa to people who, up in the UK or across Europe or America, they would know our big cities, Sydney, Melbourne, etc. They may not know Noosa. Where is Noosa?
2 hours north of Brisbane.
And then Fraser, world famous Fraser Island is only a couple of hours driving up the beach, isn't it?
An hour and a half, 1 hour and 30 minutes just north.
So what's your favourite restaurant there? You mentioned, I know there's quite a few further upriver there.
That's my favourite restaurant really, is sitting on the beach having a picnic with all our friends and all the Labradors and all the dogs.
Can we maybe just pan around slowly so everyone can see the beach and the river and the... Because you're quite close to the heads there, aren't you, the Noosa heads?
Yes, and that's the Noosa bar. That's the famous bar that I nearly got kicked over.
Narelle's nuts. I used to fly with Narelle, and she's completely and utterly nuts. But one of aviation's larger than life characters. And look at this place where she lives in Noosa. It's just spectacular, Nellie.
Oh, darling, it's absolutely divine. I absolutely love it. When I left flying, I absolutely grieved for all my crew and passengers and all the ground staff and everyone. But I came to Noosa for lunch and I've never left.
And I should tell people watching, if you're able to watch our feed on Facebook, even though you're listening to us on Crew Radio, that what's the temperature there at the moment, Narelle? Because it's not long past winter, is it?
I think it's 28 or 29.
And you can swim the whole year round there, can't you, Narelle?
Yes, of course.
Narelle, did you used to live by the beach, or is this a first for you?
No, it is a first. I'm originally from a cattle and sheep station in Western Queensland, out near Cloncurry, and I started flying for TAA, and yes, this is the first for me. I travelled the world, but as I said, I came to Noosa for lunch, and I've never left.
And so, Narelle, just a little bit about growing up in the outback. What was that like? Because when we're talking about the outback, that's real Australian outback, isn't it?
Yeah, I was real Australian outback. I did school at the Air and Correspondence for a year. Then I went to boarding school when I was 6 years of age. I went to boarding school for life, which was very, very difficult. And especially living on my animals. And that's why I love them all so much. And I rescue everything I can find, including James and poor Jack.
Yes, I was rescued.
So it's a very, very different life to growing up in the outback. So
but Narelle, at least I didn't give you nits.
Your dogs gave me nits. Dogs gave me nits.
Oh, no.
Yes, that's another story. Now, Narelle, can you share, it's up to you, I can cut it out, the story about the captain's hats?
Oh, the captain's hats. I do have a couple of captain's hats. I'm not quite sure why, James. I think you're being very naughty.
Trophies.
There's a few trophies, weren't they, Narelle?
Oh, I think so. I think you might be a little bit jealous about that, James.
Tell us about your bird, please.
Bird Walton. Well, Nancy Bird Walton's a rainbow lorikeet, and Max is a galah, and they're both very naughty. They talk, which I will send you a video.
Those birds, I've heard them, they swear like an old hostie, don't they?
Oh, they do.
It's like Noah's Ark.
Yeah, like those scratchy wings I used to fly with.
No, well, on that note, I think we better leave you before we
just say too much about you.
Yeah, we disclose too many more secrets. I know that you do this for Australian-based crew, but can I open up the invitation to anyone listening to this program all around the world? If you're going to Noosa, get in contact with Narelle through us, and you'll show them a great day on the boat or around Noosa. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's all they have to do is call me or contact me through you or through Facebook.
Thank you, Narelle.
It's Cocktail Hour, somewhere in the world. Radio without borders. Crew Radio.
My boobs aren't going to be a regular
No,
segment.
they won't. Okay, and so we're back. We're having a bit of a laugh during the break. George has headed off to grab some McDonald's. We're still with Cindy, but we've got royalty. We've got aviation royalty with us from our airline here in Australia. Janine was flying. How many years did you fly, Janine?
28.
28. And so you left a couple of years ago?
About 4 years ago, yep.
And so for those of you who don't know, Janine is the Bali goddess, the guru.
Everybody knows, I certainly do, that when you were flying, you were the go-to person for anything Bali. How did you come up with the concept? You started with how many villas?
Well, what happened was, like, Bali was our go-to place on holiday, like so many crew. It's such an easy, convenient place to get to. Decided to buy, went home, and I'd been on a holiday, but I went home and I made a checklist of everything that I wanted. 3 weeks later, I went back and I had all these villas lined up to see, and then I found one, which was my first one, Villa Yasmin, which ticked every single box. And that's how it began.
You've got a business, 5-star Bali Villas, is that correct?
5-star Bali Villa. Yes.
Villa. And how many do you manage now? Like every time I speak to you.
40.
Wow,
So,
now it's 40. And so just explain the villas, because for people, Australians are so familiar with the...
yeah, well, it's really like your own mini resort. So you'll get up in the morning, you've got your staff there who will greet you, and as we all know, the Balinese people are probably the nicest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Every villa has pool and staff. People say to me, oh, you know, when they contact us, that doesn't have a pool. And I sort of say, if it doesn't have a pool, it's just a house. So all the villas come with that. That is the standard, to have a pool and full staff.
Hi, Janine. So all the villas that you've got are primarily situated in Seminyak, is that correct?
Most are in Seminyak because that's where they really began, where the villas took off. But as with all development, they've broadened out. So we've got them in Canggu, in Brawa. We've got some in Sanua, Jimbaran. We've got a beautiful cliff top with ocean views there.
Maybe for the people in Europe who don't know Bali, explain a day in Bali in Seminyak in one of your villas.
So you'll get up, the staff are preparing breakfast for you. You might lazily walk down to the beach where you've got sun lounges for $5. You put your hand up and the guys will come running out with a beer. Then you'll head off for a massage, head off to the hairdresser where we get our hair done before we go to an incredible dining experience. The food they make up, honestly, it's like nothing you've ever tried.
And the other great thing about your service is I love turning up at Bali. It's like you're a VIP or a movie star, because there's your driver in the uniform with your name, and it's all printed correctly. Some of the other ones are scribbled on pieces of paper, and yours are just so professional. It's like a superstar experience. If you're interested in to see Janine's amazing portfolio, so I'll drop those photos in. So if you're interested in seeing all of that, go to all our social media, our Facebook page, our Twitter, or Crew Radio.
Just so we're clear, we don't have to go to the monkey forest if we don't want to, do we?
No, look,
no, you don't.
I think for our colleagues up in the UK, I think they should definitely go to the monkey forest. Personally, I'm so sick of people flying for a career that when I get to your places in Bali, I just sit. I don't want to leave that front door. Apart from going out for dinner, we get the massage people in, the chef is there. They make the most amazing nasi goreng, and the satay is just phenomenal.
A satay fix. And what about that bintang singlet you so like to wear, James?
The thong with the thong. Okay, Janine, thank you so much for your time. We're going to have you back and do a Bali intensive. If crew are listening to us from BA or from all around the world, are you happy if they contact you directly? And just to give advice about Bali, and I know that you give us great rates, so are you able to extend that to crew from all over the world?
Yeah, absolutely. All they need to do is email us and we can get the right villa for their budget, for what they want.
Because although you've got those very, very expensive ones, which are still cheaper than a 6-star hotel or 5-star hotel, I know that I've sent people to you and say, we've got this budget, and you'll find them whatever their budget is, generally.
Absolutely.
Unless it's
100%.
a backpackers, because you don't do backpackers too.
If you fancy a mix of unique people, amazing stories, and global music all baked to perfection, join me on a trip around the planet on my Weird and Wonderful World show every week. Visit crewradio.com for the schedule, and don't forget to follow us via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The Weird and Wonderful World Show, only on Crew Radio.
Through the Clouds with Crew Radio.
Hello everyone, and welcome back. We've got a great segment coming up here. We're going back into the history of the airlines. So Ed, can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
So Ed, how long did you fly? Which airline did you fly for?
I joined Qantas in 1966. Flew for 36 years.
And Ed, I know that you've got this amazing archive of old photos. You've probably got some videos or films back then.
I attended the funeral of one of our Qantas crew members back in the 1980s, early 1980s, and remembered having some great trips with this particular person. And on the way home, I thought to myself, gee, I wonder if they had a collection of photos of our golden years. You know, I started calling family members and friends that were still flying and asking them if they had any photos that they'd like to send to me. I can then scan them and put them in an archive. And
so Ed, that's why we've got you on, because of this amazing archive and your history, but you lived a lot of this. You've sent us a couple of photos. We're going to put them up on our social media feeds and through Crew Radio. Catherine, the photo that stood out to you the most of the ones that Ed has sent us?
The Captain's Cook Lounge. Seeing a photo of it, I was just blown away by the colours, by how groovy it seemed.
It was always a position that the senior crew member grabbed because you worked up there and virtually no one used it. The person up there was called, in fact, the fiddler on the roof.
Now, Ed, can you describe it? Because it's a very unique, it's quintessentially Qantas, especially anyone who thinks of Qantas in the glory days, thinks of the Captain's Cook Club. Can you describe it fairly quickly, because we're short of time, what it looked like?
Well, it was a nautical theme, of course, and it had fittings similar to what you'd find on some of the early sailing ships.
So, because we all think about Emirates now with their lovely business class bars and things, but Qantas pioneered, I think, was one of the first to pioneer that. Were there some big parties up there in the day?
I believe there were a couple I've heard when they had a few rock bands on.
One photo that really stood out was when you were in your uniform and there was some family with you.
Yeah, that was my son, who's now 48.
Back then, the trips would have been a whole lot longer than we're used to. So what would have been your longest trip away?
Well, my longest trip was just over 40 days.
Wow.
In 1966, I was flying through Singapore to London via Cairo. And you had to slip in Cairo in those days, and the pilots went on strike. So, of course, there were no aircraft coming up, and we were stuck in Cairo for 4 weeks.
Wow.
So when you had the time flying up there, and then we had to be repatriated back to Australia because they were still on strike. But it was a 707 that was manned by the staff pilots who were not part of the union. And the aircraft was full of cabin crew, so you can imagine.
Oh, what a party.
You can imagine the aircraft.
So Ed, we're obviously going to have you back for, hopefully you're going to become a regular panellist throughout the series, but we're going to have to do a whole show on vintage airlines and flying back in the 60s, 70s and 80s. What was your favourite era of flying? Was it 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s?
I think probably the 80s. You were flying on the Jumbo, which turned out to be my favourite aircraft, you know, the Queen of the Skies.
And in terms of the best crew hotel, if you think back over all your years, what was the hotel you...
Not particularly the opulence of the hotel or the comfort of the hotel, but I think that the slipport makes I love Los Angeles.
Your favourite uniform, of all the uniforms you've worn, what do you think was your favourite?
Or even what the girls wore. What was your favourite? More importantly, what the others were wearing.
The Poochie was by far the favourite girls' uniform for the guys and the girls. Yeah. I think I sent you a photo of it.
It was like tangerine. It was like a bright orange, wasn't it?
It had orange and greens, didn't it?
Don't ask a bloke what colours you've
got. Now, speaking of uniforms or amazing outfits, if you could just stand up and show people who are watching this on our Facebook feed. So just to describe, Ed's got this amazing shirt on it's like a Hawaiian shirt, but if you took out all the Hawaiian themes, and is that a Qantas Jumbo, a 747?
Yeah, Jumbo. I'll go back a bit.
Once again, thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to you joining our team with Crew Radio and sharing all the stories of Qantas in the golden age. And also, hopefully we'll get some people from BA and American Airlines coming on, sharing their history as well, because we're a shared fraternity. We used to meet up in Bangkok and Bahrain and Singapore. And
Low.
Yep, and you'd have 30 crew from Qantas, there'd be BA, there'd be Swiss Air, there'd be Air France. And so that's what we want to do with this show. It's not just current, those people still flying at the moment. It's all that history, which I love. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll get you on another show.
Thanks, Ed.
Through the Clouds with Crew Radio.
Welcome back. And I've got one of my very special friends with us. Val, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hi,
all
Val.
the way from the Hunter Valley.
Yes, so the Hunter Valley.
Beautiful.
To those people listening up in the UK or in America or across Asia, explain where the Hunter Valley is to people.
Well, the Hunter Valley is a wine region in Australia. It's about 2 hours drive from Sydney. Probably about 60 to 70 wineries.
And that's probably why you're there, isn't it, Val?
It is indeed, darling. Yes, you know me.
So, Val, how long have you been flying? Because you used to fly until fairly recently.
I did, yes. I took VR, voluntary redundancy, last year, along with quite a lot of other cabin crew, and it was sad, but you know, it was my time. I've been flying probably on and off for about 30 years. Started in the Channel Islands, which is a set of islands between France and England, and used to fly for British Island Airways. Occasionally used to go to Paris, but unfortunately used to stay on the aircraft. So,
we all know that story.
Sad,
and that's when we take a photo and post to all our social media going, I'm in Paris. We don't tell anyone that we're only there for 20 minutes.
So then from there, I started doing the big stuff. I got a fantastic job with British Caledonian Airways. They're famous because we used to wear tartan uniforms.
So you were the tart and the tartan? Were you the tart and the tartan?
I was the tart in the tartan, correct. I think we were all tarts in the tartan, actually, not just me. To fly all over the world, particularly South America, Africa, you name it, anywhere unusual, we used to go there.
And what was your favourite layover?
Funnily enough, I used to really love going to Africa. It wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but of all the places I used to go, I think I missed that the most. Strange places like Lagos and Sierra Leone and Monrovia.
So exotic.
You know, it was just so
Do you ever have time to squeeze
exotic.
in a safari, or was it just very much all those sort of off the track sort of places?
No, definitely we did get in a couple of safaris. I did one in Zambia because we used to go to Lusaka a lot, and oh my God, so special, you know, to be in a lodge at night looking out the window and there's all those beautiful animals feeding down at the salt lick.
And going to sleep, listening to the lions roaring. Sorry to jump in there, Val. Going to bed, listening to the lions roaring and things. And I used to fly. I'm with an Australian airline, and we used to meet the BA crew in Zimbabwe and all that sort of stuff. And I can remember there was a story. I wasn't on the trip, but there were a couple of the tech crew, and they went off and they hired a couple of aircraft. So they took all 16 crew on an air safari around Africa.
Oh, no, out of Africa style. Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
So, and so then after British Caledonian, I actually emigrated to Australia. So that's why I'm here. And then, would you believe, I was in England living there for a while, and I actually rejoined British Airways.
With those 4 airlines, which was your favourite airline, just quickly?
I think I absolutely loved the camaraderie of British Caledonian, and it was very special times, but I really, really enjoyed BA. I made some great friends there, and I just loved the routes. I loved the pride.
Well, we all love the routes.
Yes, I know. That was very bad terminology, wasn't it? Sorry.
Were you lucky enough to holiday with them, or did you go off on your own? Like, what was probably your most memorable holiday during that time?
I think unequivocally, that was a big word, wasn't it? I think unequivocally Cinque Terre, which is in Italy, surprise, surprise. And there's a beautiful place that I go to there, and it's called Vernazza. And that is where my favourite restaurant ever is, and it's called Belfort.
And I can attest to this because Val dragged me along saying, come on, we were on a ship and we pulled up and Val said, no, I've got this great little place, I know the waiter. So just explain the waiter and that setting, Val.
It's crazy. He's a crazy man.
He's a crazy man.
He's a crazy man. And he loves Kylie. He absolutely loves Kylie. So he loves
Don't we all?
James. Yes.
For those of you listening at home on the radio around the world, if you'd like to see what we're talking about, to see photos of this crazy, crazy man and the most spectacular coastline in this restaurant, pop onto our Facebook group and you'll be able to see all of that.
It's cocktail hour somewhere in the world. Radio without borders. Crew Radio.
We've got a celebrity, at least from the airline I work with down in Australia, and we've got Barb, the shopping goddess. Now, Barb has got a story or two to tell about a little business she set up. So, Barb, can you hear us?
Yes. Hello.
So, Barb, how long have you been doing these shopping tours?
10 years.
And how many do you think you've done so far, Barb?
I know how. I can tell you exactly. 26.
Oh, my God. Oh, my Lord.
26 shopping goddess tours.
Tell me, I'm so excited to meet you today because I've heard so much about you. I have flown just today 25 years and I don't think I've ever met you. So I'm very excited because I've often heard of these tours. And what I want to ask you today is, are you going back now that the world's opening up again?
Yes. Look, I hope to.
And they are shopping tours predominantly, but it's not just shopping. It's about an immersion in this amazing Chinese culture in Shanghai.
Yes, so the tours go only to Shanghai because I really do have a love and a passion going to Shanghai. And it's about discovering the hidden gems.
You talk about those hidden gems. What are those gems you take the women to and they go, Barb, this is just incredible. What are those one or two things?
Juxtaposition. So you have the old French concession, all the beautiful laneways and the cafes like it could be in Paris. Then you have the ultra modern futuristic towers, and it's also going to all the beautiful restaurants on the Bund, which is the British colonial, so the beautiful architecture. So it's got so many different districts. So they feel like they've been to so many different countries in one day. So, I mean, they start off, they go shopping, they go to the fabric market, they spend 4 or 5 hours there, going to the tailor, having clothes tailor-made. Then we go to the old town. That's all the beautiful temples, and they have the dumpling banquet, and they go through the lanes of the old town. Then back to the hotel, cocktails, drinks. Then that night, French concession. So all in one day, they're seeing so much.
How many days do you normally go for?
So like, what are you? 6-day tour.
Sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
We're on the go from 8 in the morning till they come home, back to the hotel. They have their drinks, cocktails, club lounge, massage, hair.
Oh, now you're talking.
Then out again. Out to restaurants.
What's the most fabulous thing that you have still got that you've bought over there?
Oh, well, look, I would say probably, the most popular thing is this, apart from the tailor-made clothes, beautiful clothes, cashmere coats, the silk doonas. We go to this ancient water town called Zhujiazhou. That it's the water village. It's like the Venice, the Venice of the East. And it's a little bit, it reminds me of that Verano, you know those little towns out of Venice where you go yes. And that's where the silk is made.
Gorgeous.
And you can buy these beautiful spun silk doonas, the number one most popular buy on the tour.
What about a hotel? What hotel would you recommend to people going to Shanghai? Have you got a favourite?
We stay at the Pullman, due to its location very close to the French concession area.
Okay.
And that is beautiful 5-star, and it's got an amazing, and this is the main reason I chose it as well, it's got an amazing club.
Oh, we like a club floor.
Yeah, we love a club.
And that's all included.
Would you know if we get a crew rate there?
Through Accor.
It just feels like the centre of the universe at the moment. Like we talk about Rome being the centre of the old world. Shanghai and those sort of places feel like the centre of the new world. It's just phenomenal.
Where are those pearls from? Because they are stunning.
Shanghai, of course.
Of course, they're so beautiful.
The pearls remain. All the jewellery, the pearls.
That's it. I'm there. I'm sold.
Not to mention, the underground markets. At the moment, there's no one going there, but the underground markets are amazing. And
so, Barb, we're obviously going to have to get you back for another show, probably a couple of shows, because I know so many people are going to be sending in questions. If anyone is listening to us, drop your questions into our Facebook page and we'll get Barb to answer them for you.
First class all the way. Crew Radio on air.
Wow, James, what a jam-packed show that was. It was like a 16-hour red-eye.
Catherine, I'm exhausted. I need a drink and I need a holiday. I think you need a holiday, don't you?
I'll second that. Thanks to the Tart in the Tartan, Val, Barb, the shopping goddess, Tamarind, the cruise director, and George with his sidekick, flight attendant Mayday.
And Romany, the Bette Midler of magic, Janine, the Bali guru, Ed, our historical attaché, and old helium heals herself, Cindy. But most of all, we want to thank Mandy and the incredible team she's put together here at Crew Radio.
I know, thank you so much. James, we've got to go. The locksmith's here to change the locks.
Quick, get out, quick. Pull the blinds down.